Hello YouTube, I'm back with another Violent Opponent video, but this time it's not really a review because it involves the G3 movie that was not released, as well as some trivia that I found out more recently. And start with the movie. This is going to be more around, where I think this would have gone, what my thoughts are, things of that nature. And from what we know, this is originally going to be called The Violent Opponent Movie. Yes, it's not all that creative a title. It's unclear whether they would have changed it upon the final release. But there's hints that this is what the movie was going to be called based on, various articles that were available at the time. They're still available now, I think, although most of the details as to what the story would have been about are only available on the archived My Little Pony site. Although it's not much. It's really just saying that everything's going to go wrong. And that kind of sums up sort of what happened in each of the movies that were actually released. So it's possible that each of the movies we ended up getting, Charming Birthday, Dancing in the Clouds, Friends Are Never Far Away, they may have been bits and pieces inspired by what this movie would have actually been. So who knows? We could have gotten a villain out of this. I mean, G3 has never had a villain in all of its movies. It's entirely possible, and especially considering the fact that there was no telling where this would have gone, considering this was basically around the first year that G3 was actually, got going, because it got going, about a few months ago, really. I mean, this was, and part of the reason why this didn't end up going well is because Hasbro had a huge plan in mind involving 1,000 to 1,500 movies with around 8 to 12 weeks each. I mean, that's pretty insane to go through that much. It's basically 3 months per movie. And this also indicates that the My Little Pony movie would have been somewhat live action mixed with cartoons. So probably it's possible that The World's Biggest Tea Party was somehow that movie. At least that's an idea of what it might have looked like if we had gotten it as it was. I've been interested to see what this movie would have actually been. I mean, there are broken images on the archive My Little Pony site, which may have been sketches regarding either what the movie would have been in process of looking like, or heck, it could have been anything. I mean, it's entirely possible it was just sketches of the characters themselves. We know a lot of the characters would have been in it based on little advertisement in the brochure. That was kind of the first hint that this was coming. And unfortunately, it had a bunch of delays, and then it got canceled. I think things really didn't go as planned in order to have that happen. It seems to be that they were trying to get stuff going in theaters. It wasn't working out. And I think Minted Christmas was the only one that apparently got released in theaters at some point. I don't recall any TV advertisement for it, though. I'm even too busy with other stuff at the time. But it was probably one of the longest movies that they had in the G3 movie line. It was around 45, 50 minutes, somewhere in there. Actually, I think the Princess Promenade was up there as well. So, but even, who knows? They could have created a villain. It may not have been the most dangerous villain, especially as we saw with Twinkle-Wish Adventure. This may have been somewhat. It's also possible Twinkle-Wish Adventure was part of that movie. They went kind of back on and said, "Hey, there's this little storyline that we didn't actually make. Can we bring that back in and have a look at it again?" Because Whimsy Weatherby would prove to be somewhat of a villain, less, I'm gonna kill you with my big army of dangerous creatures like G1 had, but it's entirely possible. There's a lot of ways this could have gone. I probably would have gone to see it. I would have at least watched it somewhere online or whatever. Because I was definitely into G3 at the time this was being around the time it was done. Because I mean, it was the first commercial that I ended up getting into the G3 franchise there. Let's see, there's a whole lot. There's really much else we can go on. I mean, it's obvious this probably would have started out innocent enough where, they'd be at one of the locations in Ponyville doing something, have one thing go wrong, and then maybe they are assuring themselves it'll be fine, we'll take care of this, go on to the next item, that goes wrong, then they try the next item. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways they could have gone about this. But since we don't have a whole lot of information to go on, there's not a whole lot to talk about regarding, how it would have actually gone. So I'm going to move on to the more trivial stuff. Literal, things that I've actually found out more recently that I previously didn't know existed or forgotten existed. For example, Minty, when she was first concept art, she was green, including green hair. I mean, it's unclear why they changed it, but maybe they wanted something a little bit better. Because obviously Minty still likes green, so they may have just played around with that and said, okay, let's give her different hair colors, but keep her body green, and we'll have her like other green, green candy, stuff like that. And then they probably expanded her from there, including her love of socks. But I don't think I ever knew that. I don't think I had ever seen it. There's very little photos of that to prove it. I'll put a link in the description where I found all these trivial bits. You can see for yourself, although it's probably a little bit more difficult. You'll have to probably do some digging on that website, because there's a long list of other trivial bits on that site. And one thing I probably never noticed was that Rarity, the G3 Rarity, and Toola-Roola, when she was made as a Core 7 pony, was very similar. They're almost identical to each other. They could almost be twins. You could pretty well call them twins now. More like twins than Heartbright and Starflight from Two for the Sky. That's how close they were. It's possible they had some inspiration from each other. Major inspiration, I would think, if they were going to have inspiration from each other. I mean, their personalities are completely different. G3 Rarity's more of a kid. Kind of sort of likes mischief, likes having fun a lot. Toola-Roola, sort of fun, more of an artist, though. She doesn't have a horn either. I think her tail color is different, but... I mean, I didn't even see the resemblance, and it's also... Regarding Friendship is Magic, this is going to be a little bit interesting as well. Sunset Shimmer reminds very much of either... Oh, what did I see? It was Sun Shimmer? You see how the resemblance right out of the gates? The name is already similar. She's already a yellow pony. She had, I think her hair was orange. The pony's hair was orange. But she also is somewhat similar to Fiesta Flare from the G3 merchandise as well. Although that's a little more red hair and yellow body. This is more gold and red and yellow with red and yellow. But I mean, it's amazing how close they are to each other. Of course, this is unsurprising considering the fact they've had inspiration from other characters. A lot of the G3 names were based off of G1 names, and G4 names were based off of G3. But I mean, to have Toola-Roola, speaking of Toola-Roola, there's another trivia regarding her, potentially, regarding her name and her cutie mark. You notice it's like a little spiral? Well, it seems to be that's based on a Celtic symbol, which is called a Toola-Roola, which is more of an Irish song type thing. But it makes sense. It finally... I was always kind of curious, why did they name her the way they did? And this makes perfect sense. I think this is it. It's based on a Celtic symbol. In fact, her cutie mark is directly based on a Celtic symbol. Her G3 Core 7 counterpart is not related at all. So there's no telling. But obviously that played a role. Her name was just transferred over to the new character. But I mean, stuff like that is just very interesting. I mean, you go through all... I went through all the time G3 was kind of available and didn't know that that's what it was. I don't think we had any proof on that either. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to say regarding G3? Maybe not. It's all I can remember off the top of my head, at least initially. Yeah, I guess there's also some of the characters, the voice actors. I mean, some of the people that voiced in G4 actually go into G3. So like Andrea Libman, for example, voices Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy in Friendship is Magic. She did Zipsy in G3. So, and of course you probably know some of the elements like Surprise in G1 is a direct link to G4, and that's why sometimes you'll see the two characters are kind of like one will be the other. Pinkie Pie will be Surprise. I mean, they're pretty similar to each other, but. Is there anything else I can think of? Oh, there were comics. There were actual G3 comics, and apparently they were in the annuals that were released every year. That's kind of where the name comes from. And regarding those comics, they're interesting for sure. I mean, they do, for the most part, follow the personalities of the G3 characters, but they're a little odd because in the fact that they end up going somewhat different from how they were. I mean, they actually get, serious, like, more, like, actually getting angry for the first time. And so there are typos in there, so I feel they at least got the style down right. I mean, it's just kind of strange. It's not quite as nostalgic to find them behaving differently than how they were. I mean, it's sort of... Here's my dog in the background, just kind of walking around. Not really... Not really doing a whole lot. There she goes. He's been there. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot I can go into detail. I went on the comics. Those were relatively interesting. I mean, it's hard to believe they actually had comics. They even featured characters that were not previously in any of the merchandise. Like Star Swirl, I think, is in at least one of the comics. And she's in one of the books, though, I think. There's one of the books that she is in there. But I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. Is there anything? I don't think there's anything else I can think of that is regarding trivia that I can think of. I guess I can go into little bits on, they made mistakes on a couple of the artworks. So, like, I think a Starbeam and Snowflake are two characters whose artworks they kind of messed up a bit regarding their legs. They actually have 5 legs in the artwork. That's mostly because of the tail. The artist, I guess, mistook a bit of tail for a leg. I'm sure these were probably white when they were first, white with outlines and stuff, so they probably assumed it was another leg and didn't realize it until after it was finished, so they just kind of probably left it as is. But you can see, if you see the actual artwork of the ponies and, see how they're posed, you can say, oh, yeah, I see where they screwed up, how they managed to mess that up. But, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, you wouldn't expect it. I mean, none of the other ones really have all that much artwork that gets changed. But, I mean, little tidbits like that are pretty interesting, especially when you're a fan of a franchise and you don't even know that actually exists. So, yeah, that's my special My Little Pony video regarding the movie and little bits of trivia on G3. Thanks.